The people who betrayed you. You told them everything first. That is not a coincidence. That is a pattern. And Machiavelli saw it 500 years ago. There is a version of you that nobody can touch. A version that walks into a room and is felt before he is seen. A version that does not explain himself. Does not justify his moves. Does not hand people the ammunition they later use against him. That version of you exists. But right now, something is standing between you and him. And that something is not a lack of confidence. Not a lack of money. Not a lack of opportunity. It is your mouth. It is what you keep telling people. It is what you keep revealing about yourself in moments of comfort. In moments of weakness. In moments when someone makes you feel just safe enough to open up. You have been taught your entire life that vulnerability is strength. That honesty builds connection. That sharing yourself with others brings you closer. And maybe in some small, controlled, deeply personal corner of your life, that is partially true. But out here, in the world of ambition, competition, and power, that thinking will bury you. Quietly. Without a funeral, Machiavelli did not write for the soft-hearted. He wrote for men who wanted to survive. Men who wanted to move through the world without being dismantled by it. He watched rulers fall, not because they lacked armies, but because they lacked discipline over what they revealed. He watched powerful men become powerless the moment they let the wrong people inside. And the lesson he drew was not complicated. It was cold, and it was this. The man who controls what others know about him, controls how others treat him. Most people have never been taught this. They were raised to share, to be open, to express. And so they talk. They talk about their plans before the plans are real. They talk about their pain to people who are waiting for a weakness to exploit. They talk about their doubts to people who will use those doubts to quietly position themselves above. They talk about their past to people who will define them by it forever. And then they wonder why nothing feels sacred anymore. They wonder why people stop respecting them. They wonder why they always seem to end up exposed while everyone around them stays untouchable. It is not bad luck. It is information leakage. And it is costing you everything. Here is the first thing Machiavelli would tell you. And he would say it without flinching. Never share your next move. Not with your closest friend. Not with your partner. Not with anyone who does not need to know it to make it happen. The moment your plan exists in someone else's mind, it is no longer fully yours. People do not always betray you on purpose. Sometimes they mention the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong moment. Sometimes envy operates unconsciously, and they subtly undermine what they secretly resent. Sometimes they just talk the way most people talk, without thinking about what it costs you. The result is the same. Your move gets disrupted. Your plan gets diluted. Your momentum disappears before you ever build it. Silence is not secrecy born from fear. It is a strategy chosen by men who understand that the world does not need to know what you are building until it is already built. The second warning: never share your financial reality with anyone who is not legally or contractually tied to it. Not the depth of your struggle, not the height of your progress, not your income, not your debts, not your plans to change either. Money is the single most distorting force in human relationships. The moment people know you are doing well, something shifts. Subtle jealousy enters. Requests begin. The dynamic changes. And the moment people know you are struggling, something else shifts. Respect quietly erodes. Confidence in you softens. People begin making decisions about you based on numbers, not on who you are. Machiavelli understood that a prince who shows his treasury openly invites both theft and contempt. You are your own prince. Govern accordingly. Third, never share your emotional wounds with casual relationships. The people you work with, the people you know socially, the people in your outer circle who feel familiar but have no real loyalty to you. When you bleed in front of these people, you do not earn sympathy. You earn a label. That label follows you quietly. It changes how they speak to you, how seriously they take you, how much room they give you when something is at stake. Pain is not shameful, but pain shared in the wrong room becomes a permanent fixture in how others see you. And it takes years to undo what one unguarded conversation creates. Fourth, never share your personal relationships with the outside world. Not the details of your marriage, not the tension in your family, not the fractures between you and the people closest to you. The moment you bring outsiders into intimate conflict, you hand them a map of your vulnerabilities. People remember. They store what you told them in a moment of frustration, and they pull it out later, sometimes years later, in ways you never anticipated. What happens inside your walls should stay inside your walls. A man who speaks about his private life freely is a man who has not yet understood that privacy is power. The world does not need access to your interior. It needs to see only what you choose to show. And what you choose to show should always be intentional, never accidental. Fifth, never share your spiritual or psychological transformation while it is still happening. This is one of the most costly mistakes a man can make. You begin to change. You begin to wake up. You begin to see things differently and feel things shifting inside you. And the natural impulse is to tell someone, to share the evolution, to bring others into the process. Resist that impulse completely. Transformation is fragile in its early stages. It does not need an audience. It needs silence, pressure, and time. The moment you announce who you are becoming, people begin to react to the announcement rather than to the reality. Some will mock it. Some will test it. Some will subtly try to pull you back to the version of you they are comfortable with, because your growth quietly threatens their stillness. Let the change happen in private. Let it harden. Let it become undeniable. Then let them notice without you ever having said a word. Sixth, never share your past failures as though they are confessions. There is a difference between a man who has processed his past and speaks about it with detachment, and a man who is still carrying his failures and laying them down at the feet of whoever will listen. One signals growth, the other signals damage. In a world that is always reading you, always forming conclusions, always deciding how much weight to give your words and your presence, a man who leads with his losses gives others permission to define him by them. Your past is yours. It shaped you, but it does not own you, and it certainly does not need to be handed to people who had nothing to do with it. Speak of where you have been only when the context demands it, and only when you have already arrived somewhere worth mentioning. Seventh, and perhaps the coldest of all, never share how much someone's betrayal affected you. When someone wrongs you, when someone disrespects you, when someone moves against you quietly or openly, the instinct is to respond, to confront, to let them know what they did and what it cost you. Machiavelli would tell you that this instinct is the most dangerous one you have, because the moment you show someone the size of the wound they gave you, you show them how to wound you again. You confirm that they had power over you. You hand them that power permanently. The most devastating response to betrayal is composure, not the performance of composure, not a mask worn over rage, but the genuine, practiced ability to absorb what happened, file it away, and continue moving as though the ground never shifted beneath you. Let them wonder. Let them search your face for damage and find nothing. That silence, that stillness, is more threatening than any confrontation you could ever initiate. What all 7 of these have in common is this: they are all exits. Doors you open in yourself that let the world walk through you rather than around you. The man Machiavelli respected was not the loudest man in the room. He was not the most expressive, the most vulnerable, the most relatively human. He was the most contained, the most deliberate. The man whose interior was a closed country, a place with borders, with guards, with intention at every entry point. That man does not bleed in public. He does not perform his pain for approval. He does not map his plans on the table before the game is finished. He moves. He observes. He builds in silence and lets the results speak at a volume his words never could. You do not become this man overnight. You become him through repetition, through learning, again and again, to pause before you speak, to ask yourself who benefits from this information, to recognize that restraint is not coldness. It is not distance. It is discipline, and discipline, applied consistently over time, becomes the most magnetic and unreadable quality a man can possess. The world will keep pressuring you to share, to open up, to be transparent, to let people in. It will dress this pressure in the language of connection and authenticity. Some of that pressure will come from people who genuinely care about you, but most of it will come from a world that is far more comfortable with you exposed than with you powerful. Choose power and say nothing.